And welcome back to Capital Tonight. So Carl Palladino angered a lot of people over the weekend when he told a group of Orthodox Jewish leaders that he worries about children being, quote, brainwashed into thinking that homosexuality is an equally valid or successful option. Now, since making this remark, Carl Palladino has been asked repeatedly to clarify what he meant by that statement, and he insists that he is not, in fact, homophobic. He also says his position on same-sex marriage mirrors that of the Catholic Church. Well, I am joined now by Dennis Poust. He is the communications director for the New York State Catholic Conference. That is the group that has led a vocal opposition to marriage, same-sex marriage in this state. Dennis, thanks very much for your time.
Sure, Liz.
So when Carl Palladino says these things, that he doesn't want children to think that, to be brainwashed into thinking that homosexuality is essentially a valid option or lifestyle, is that in fact mirrored with the Church's position?
It's hard to understand what he means by that. So I can't really say with that particular quote what he's talking about. So not to try and evade the question, but it was odd. In fact, was that the one that he actually even said, or there was one line that he didn't say?
No, that is the one that he did say. The one that he didn't say dealt with dysfunction.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Well, you know, I don't think any of your viewers are surprised to know that, yes, we do oppose the redefining of marriage. We believe it's between one man and one woman. Now, in our opposition to that in the legislature and our public advocacy, we really don't take the religious argument that, you know, God created man and woman to be. That's what we believe, sure, but we do say that we think it's best for society for marriage to remain the union of one man and one woman. That when you separate procreation, completely sever it from the nature of marriage, then that's a negative thing, because we think the benefit is, and why marriage exists, is largely for the stable rearing of children. So that's where we get into, in a public policy debate when it comes to homosexuality now, typically. We do, the Church teaches too that unjust discrimination should be avoided. Homosexual men and women are children of God. They have equal human dignity to anyone else.
But they don't have the right to this particular right they say is an equal human right and an equal civil right.
Right. Well, and we disagree that because we just don't see it that way, because we don't think it's possible really for in our teaching that we believe marriage can only be between a man and a woman, and we don't see it as discrimination. We just see it as sort of an impossibility.
What do you say, though, to this idea about education of children, for example, in the public school system?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know there's not whole curricula dedicated to homosexuality, but it's also not glossed over. I mean, he's talking about that children should not be educated in some way to believe that when you grow up that it's okay, that equality is okay, that it's okay to have men dating men and women dating women.
Well, we believe that homosexuality is an orientation that people have. It's not something that people freely choose. We don't, I don't know if science can say for one way for sure or another if it's nature or nurture or both, but it seems certainly to be at least partially nature, that some people are born with this orientation. And so, again, the whole brainwashing thing, I'm just not really clear on where he's coming from. We don't believe in discriminating against homosexual people, homosexual students. Now, a couple of months ago, there was a bill, this Dignity for All Student Act. It was an anti-bullying bill. Now, we put out a statement about that. It was sort of ignored in the media, but what we said was we thought it didn't go far enough, because it sort of created a checklist. It was almost handled this problem like a human resources department in a company would. And so you can't discriminate against for religious reasons, for homosexual reasons, or for sexual orientation, for all this checklist. But we see in bullying that there's a lot more to it than that. You don't always know why people are being bullied. So we wanted it to be broader and not specify homosexuality, not because we didn't want it to specify religious orientation either.
How do you feel, though, about Carl Palladino using the Church sort of as a shield almost to say, well, this is okay, these things that I say that most people would say are discriminatory. He insists he is not homophobic, but he says, well, I'm not homophobic because my position is exactly what the Church says.
Right. Well, his position on marriage is that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and that is what the Church teaches.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to characterize his other remarks, and I think your viewers will have to take what I say and take what he said and kind of make that determination for themselves. I'm not, we don't endorse candidates. We can't endorse candidates, and I think people are going to have to decide for themselves based on what I'm explaining the Church teaching on homosexuality to be.
Yeah, actually, and that puts you in an interesting conundrum, right? Particularly in this election cycle. Not that these hot-button issues aren't always a part of the discourse when we talk about campaigns, but this year in particular, you're seeing some issues, gay marriage and abortion, being huge, playing out in these statewide campaigns. And the church doesn't have the capability to say, well, hey, we actually prefer candidate X over candidate Y.
That's right. Kelly Conlon from NARAL was on this show last week, and she was laying out all the candidates that she was endorsing. We don't have that luxury. We can't do that. We can't give campaign contributions to candidates. So we just have to sort of try and get our message out there by coming on your show, by talking to the media, and by talking in the pulpit and teaching. We're very concerned about the Reproductive Health Act, and that's something that she was talking about the other day. And she laid out a claim that 75% of the people support it. I'd really like to see that polled because it's a radical bill. It's way out of the mainstream of what most people think. Do most people in New York believe in a right to abortion? Yes, especially in the first trimester. There is a small percentage that believes in abortion throughout 9 months and no restrictions. There's a small percentage that believes in no abortion at all. There's that middle ground that believes it should be available somewhat. This bill would wipe away any potential restrictions, and that's why we think it's a bad bill.
To be fair, though, the church isn't voiceless. I mean, how much does the church spend on lobbying, for example? And plus, you have a bully pulpit in the real sense of bully pulpit.
We have the pulpit. I didn't mean to imply that we're voiceless, but we don't. What influences, what we believe influences in this day and age elected officials is, many times is campaign contributions and delivering voters. We could hope maybe deliver voters, maybe. We can't deliver campaign contributions.
But then elected officials come to the church and they're hosted. I mean, we just saw Andrew Cuomo with Reverend A.R. Bernard in Brooklyn yesterday.
Yeah, you don't really see them hosted in Catholic churches. If we hosted Andrew Cuomo or Carl Palladino in one of our churches, we'd be probably sued. And they could stand up and seems to be in the pulpit of any other church or a synagogue or any place else, and it seems to be okay. But if we host a candidate in a Catholic church, it suddenly becomes a media storm.
Well, but because of the history of the Catholic Church in, say, the last 10 years, people are watching with unusual scrutiny.
Well, I think also with some anti-Catholicism is part of it, too. I mean, people want to hold us to a different standard than other religions, and the Constitution doesn't allow that. Everyone has to be treated equally. And so Andrew Cuomo shouldn't be standing up in a pulpit of a black church in Brooklyn and getting endorsed from the pulpit. That shouldn't be. That's unconstitutional. We don't do it.
Dennis, you've quite clearly made yourself quite clear. I want to thank you very much for coming in with us because we are trying to be as fair as possible on this particular topic. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it.